So let's go over the products that we're going to be using for today's trifold card. I'm going to be referring to our mini catalog from Stampin' Up, September to December 2025. I'm going to pages 38 and 39. 39 is what starts the autumn toile. And I am just going to go over the color palette here. If you want to refer to the color palette in the catalog, it's right here. The strip is right here. So Cajun Craze, Mossy Meadow, Pecan Pie, Early Espresso, Very Vanilla, and Gray Granite. All right. I changed it slightly. Instead of a Gray Granite, I am adding Pumpkin Pie. We're going to see how that goes. Now, I do have Gray Granite here, and I am going to cut the card base in Gray Granite with you, and then we'll put it to the side. And I'm just going to mix and match some papers, you know, throughout making the card, and we'll see how it goes. But I'm going to set this aside. The reason that I did my own sort of color key was I just wanted to slightly change the color palette, and I still want to try Gray Granite, so just bear with me. But I put Very Vanilla against Basic White so that you could see. If you don't have the Very Vanilla base, you could still use Basic White. It's going to be just fine, okay? The colors go beautifully with that too. But I am going to be using Very Vanilla today, okay? So the Autumn Toile Suite is like, you know, what I would call a mega suite, meaning it actually has two bundles in it, Autumn Trees and Amber Autumn. I'm just going to be focusing on Amber Autumn, the Amber Autumn bundle in today's video. I actually don't have this yet, okay? And then the other thing we're going to be working with is the Designer Series paper. So that is the Autumn Toile Designer Series paper. For the Amber Autumn bundle, that is item 165893, all right? And then the DSP is item number 165882. I also do not have some of the accessories. So I don't have the entire suite, and I'm not worried about it. You substitute as you want. We're going to do some coloring today with our blends. And I just wanted to go over that. So for my ribbon, I am most likely going to be bringing in, let's see, I actually have these sitting here from Halloween. I'm doing some bulk filming. And so you're going to see these a couple of times, but I have the Timid Tiger ribbon here, and I think that that'll be a great pop of color. But I also have white, and I could color this and turn this into other things, okay? So if you have white ribbon, grab it. If you have, you know, the darker ribbons, if you have this, that would be perfect. But if you don't, it's going to be just fine. Okay. The other thing that I am going to be using, I'm going to go through the papers here. We're going to go through them together. I'm actually also going to be using the Circle of Seasons dies. In particular, I want to use the acorn. So we're going to be doing the acorn die. And then we have this little leafy die here. If you don't have the Circle of Seasons dies, you're going to be able to use the leaves from the Amber Autumn bundle. Okay, so there is this leaf background die right here, but we also have this individual leaf. But if you want to layer them, for my Paper Pumpkin friends, because you have to be a Paper Pumpkin subscriber to get this, then you can mix and match your leaf sizes, which is really awesome. Okay, and then here, let me show you the stamp set. All right, so these are the images we're going to be coloring today, and I'm just using coordinating colors in the Stampin' Blends for that. And let's go ahead and just go through our papers really quickly. I don't need this because we're gonna put it in a different container. Oh my gosh, so fabulous. I mean, I love Toile. Toile is definitely a design for me. Also, this Designer Series paper pack, it's actually in 3s, which that is also different. Typically we see 2 of each design, but this one has 3, which is awesome. Okay, but just absolutely love that. And I actually have, I should have brought in my dishes. I actually have a brown Toile china set. Okay, and here we have this. Okay. Here is our Cajun Craze sort of popping in and representing. I'm going to be adding in pops of orange. We're going to do that with our blends. And then here's that gray granite showing up, okay? So the gray granite, I really wasn't sure. I'm still not sure, but we're going to try it. And we're going to see what we think of it at the end. And you guys can give me your opinion. You can leave the comments too if you want. And then here, look at this. This is, wow. And then we have this one too. This is, I would say this is like one of the most bold paper patterns that I've seen. I mean, still having like an animal design in it and everything. That's very cool. That's a little fox in there. Okay, so we have those. Geez, I can't get used to the 3 sheets. Isn't that funny? So here we have an 8.5 by 11 sheet of gray granite, which is my, I'm not sure about this color, but we're still going to cut the card base because I would like to do an entire set of cards today. We're just going to do one together to go through all the measurements and everything. And then at the end, I'll show you all of the different variations, okay? So we're going to cut one card base out of this sheet of 8.5 by 11 cardstock. We're going to go to 5.5. Okay, and we're going to cut, and then that gives us a 5.5 by 11 card base. Okay, and I've made this before in previous videos, but it's always nice to come back to it because this to me is like a designer series paper showcase card, and I definitely want to do that with the designer series papers that I love. Okay, so we have our 5.5 by 11 card base, and we're going to score this in 3 places. We're going to score it at 1 3/16, 4 inches, and 6 3/4 inches. Okay, so we're going to go to just past the 1 1/8, and we're going to score. Okay, now we're going to go to 4 inches. And we're going to score. Okay. And we're going to bring out the arm. And we're going to go to 6 3/4 inches. And score. Okay. All right. Now, this is what we had left over from trimming our card base. Okay. So we're going to go to the 2 inch mark. And we're going to cut, I chose a wider belly band today. And then we're going to go to 9.5. And we're going to cut, okay. And this gives us our belly band. So that is 2 by 9.5 inches. And I'm going to score it at 3 inches. Now, with belly bands, you could always just score one side and then set your card in and then score it, or do like a fold and then smooth it out with your bone folder. My bone folder is lost, so I've just been using my clear block, okay? But I am going to score it, okay? So I'm actually going to score it just under 7.5. So I'm actually going to go to the 7.5 notch here. But I'm going to score it so that I can see it. Okay, so if you see the line, you see how it's kind of under, like it's not quite there. That's where I'm going to score. Okay, so that gives me some room in my belly band. So we have like, it will fold over, but it's not like a super tight hold. If you would rather have a very tight hold with your belly band, you could always do like 7 5/8 of an inch. I think I have it written down on the post-it somewhere. So let's just take a look and see how this looks. Okay. All right. And so do you see how there's just a little bit of room on either end there. If you don't want it to be that loose, like if you want it to be, see how there's a little, if I push this flush, okay, and you can see there's a little bit of movement in there, you could score that down. You could actually do 7 5/8 inch instead of 7.5, okay, and then that will make it a little tighter. All right. Okay, and here is another measurement for you. The belly band, when the two flaps are closed, is 2 inches by about 4.5 inches. It's just under technically. So I cut a couple of very vanilla pieces at 2 by 4.5. And then if you need to trim the edges off on your, like the layering piece for the dye from the autumn amber bundle, then you can do that. And now I am laying out the DSP measurements, which is the next step for this. Okay, so as we are going to lay this into our accordion trifold card, you're going to need one piece of DSP that is 4 by 5.25. You're going to need a very vanilla or basic white insert at 2.5 by 5.25 inches. You're going to need another piece of DSP, whatever pattern you would like at that same measurement, 2.5 by 5.25 inches. And then you are going to need 2 strips of DSP, 1 by 5.25 inches each. And that is for this flap where I'm just adding it now. This is the flap that we're actually going to add DSP to both sides, because you're going to see that outside flap when it's closed, and you're going to see the inside flap when it's open. Okay, so I know that this is a card with a lot of, and that's just me indicating you need 2 strips. So I know that there's a lot of DSP. I know that there's a lot of paper cutting for this. So, this might not be an everyday card for you. And that's just me kind of showing the post-its again, if you need the measurements again. But for a pack of DSP that you absolutely adore, this is a perfect card. This is an absolutely perfect card. And if you do have the time to sit down and make an entire set of cards, you can really enjoy the process of cutting the designer series paper. And what I ended up doing, I knew I was making a set of cards today, so I actually took one 12 by 12 sheet in each of the DSP patterns, and I cut the measurements, all the DSP measurements that I just went through. I cut them all. So I cut one in the fox pattern, in the pumpkin pattern, in the tree toile pattern, and so on. And then I had a lot of pieces that I could work with and, interact with, sort of mix and match until I found the patterns that I liked. And you'll be able to see that in much better detail at the end of the video. And then that's me creating my post-it to do the belly band layer with that beautiful die that cuts all of those autumn leaves. It's like a background die. It cuts in, it doesn't cut the edges. So you'll cut it to whatever measurement that you want. And for something that's as intricate as this, I do recommend cutting the strips prior to die cutting it. It will just make it easier, because if you have to run something that's intricate like that with your paper trimmer, if your paper trimmer isn't a perfect blade, it can snag or tear the paper. So if you just cut the strips ahead of time, it's going to be a lot easier for you. And then whatever, die of choice that you want to use to decorate your belly band, that is what that last post-it was referring to. And off in the upper left-hand corner there, I have a whole bunch, a whole pile of dies that I had cut when I was cutting the DSP and everything, just getting ready because I knew I was making a set of cards. Now here you can see all of the DSP that I've cut in those measurements that we just went through. And just an honorable mention that pumpkin pie, the intricate layer background die, you could put that as your inside piece as well. Just cut the cardstock to 4 by 5.5 inches. Okay, so here I'm going to use every stamp in the Amber Autumn set to either stamp the inside, the outside, or both. So you can have a lot of fun with this. I ended up making 7 accordion trifold fun fold cards with this set. The 3 main ink colors that I used were Early Espresso, Pecan Pie, and Cajun Craze. But I did have Pumpkin Pie sitting by, and if you can see the blends up in the corner there, we are going to do a little bit of coloring with our Stampin' Blends. I'm going to color one set of pumpkins with you on camera, and then you guys can just see the way that the rest of them turned out, because we'll be here forever if I tried to um, go through every single detail of all 7 cards. But I'll have everything posted on my blog. Now here you can see me doing that paper piecing. This was so much fun, and this is one of the reasons why I was so thrilled to do 7 cards. And when I say that I did 7 cards, the reason that there are 7, again, is because of the coordinating colors in the DSP. So, Pecan Pie, Very Vanilla, Cajun Craze, Mossy Meadow, Early Espresso, Pumpkin Pie, and Gray Granite. So I did 1 card base in each one of those colors, which is how we got to 7. Now, you can actually use all of the same DSP pattern on a card. You can see that I'm using 2 strips of the same pattern on this particular card. This is the Pecan Pie card base here. And then, of course, on the inside flap, you can decide if you want to use a different pattern or the same pattern. So you can have fun with this. I I love the Toile pattern. I really wanted it to be a little bit more uniform on this particular card. And you can see with the stamping on our Very Vanilla insert, I just did a little bit of stamping in the upper and lower corner there with our greeting. Such beautiful, stunning artwork. This is a stunning bundle. I'm sure it's absolutely a stunning suite. I thought that the papers were breathtaking. I wish we had a Christmas version of this, and we have a ton of fabulous papers and themes to work with, so it's not wanting, but I just love Toile. Here you can see me just kind of popping out some of those leftover pieces that I had, and like I said, I had cut that Very Vanilla strip ahead of time to 2 by 4.5 inches. I would rather cut it a little bit longer and then kind of trim off those edges if I needed to, rather than cut it too short. So you can, use your judgment on that. But for the measurement, I would say 2 by 4.5 strips, and then go ahead, cut your background piece. And I liked that I had that little lip at the bottom there, just I'd say maybe about 1/8 of an inch of a line there to kind of give it a little bit of an edging. Now here I'm taking a sponge dauber. I could not find a clean sponge dauber with a little bit of glue. My friend Roberta gave me that tip a couple of years ago, and I just adhered glue with the dauber. When I first started making the cards, I was very careful and clean about it. And by the last card, I was so messy. I had glue everywhere. So it's just one of those things that happens as you make things. But look at how stunning that is. That's why I did the wide belly band, because I really wanted to show off that die. I mean, that's a showstopper die, in my opinion. Now, you have been seeing the Fright Night dies just about constantly from me, and that's just because they're always on hand, they're always on my table. I cut a bunch of pieces in advance, and I did use some of those on these cards. So I did use the Amber Autumn bundle primarily, but I did bring in some of those label dies and pieces for the front, for the card fronts, for the belly bands when we go to decorate the belly bands. Now, I did want to just mention our cling stamps are going away. They're going to be changed to photopolymer stamps, and you see how I'm actually setting the die on top of the stamp and just pressing down. So you can do this in variations. You can pre-cut your pieces and, stamp it, whether you want to stamp, you know, the traditional way, or whether you just want to press the ink into the piece the way that I did, kind of upside down. Or if you want to do partial image stamping onto a label die or your favorite die shape, whatever you're going to decorate your belly band with. I did a variety of that, and I decided to leave this in the video. These are all very vanilla pieces, but I am going to bring in a little bit of black, a little bit of white as we're decorating our belly bands. And I'm also going to bring in, I believe they're called the natural matte dots. They're in white, cream, brown, and black, and they were a great alternative to decorate our cards with in this video, since I didn't have the ones from the suite. Here I am just using coordinating color blends to color my images. So this is the pumpkin pie bundle. We have a lot of fabulous oranges to work with in our Stampin' Blend collection right now. So I have a little bit of Timid Tiger in there, a little bit of pumpkin pie, a little bit of pecan pie, just trying to blend in all of those shades, a little bit of Cajun Craze, some bronze, some ivory. This is dark old olive, which I just wanted a little, like a couple of pops of green for the leaves. I was very sparingly with the Daffodil Delight with the yellow, just for the corn essentially. And that banner is actually from the Fright Night bundle, and that Grateful for You fit perfectly on it. So just wanted to shout that out, that these all mix and match beautifully. And I couldn't be happier with the way that decorating the belly bands turned out. I just think that these cards, they just turned out stunning. I knew this was going to be a perfect paper pack for this type of card. Now these little extra bits that I have, so the leaf that cuts out, there's a larger leaf that's from the Amber Autumn bundle, and then I cut out some acorns for my Circle of Seasons dies, which is the add-on dies for Paper Pumpkin from the September kit. Oh, by the way, I'm still waiting for my September Paper Pumpkin kit. I actually had to call. I think something went wrong that I haven't received it yet. So I did request a replacement Paper Pumpkin because it's been, longer than 10 business days. Okay, so here I am actually going to open up each one of these so that you can kind of see the designer series paper combinations of what I ended up going with. The stamping on the inside, that's the one with the Cajun Craze background. And you can see that on this one, the belly band is actually early espresso. So you can mix and match your cardstocks if you want. You can get as fancy or as plain as you would like. And when I was experimenting with the measurements on the belly band, the early espresso one here that was a really tight fit, that was more of the 7 5/8 measurement there. Okay, so here is the Very Vanilla. I could have made a whole set of these with the Very Vanilla. And you can see that the Fright Night tag on that belly band was actually horizontal instead of vertical. And I love, love, love this Mossy Meadow pattern. I particularly loved it in combination with the pumpkins and with the foxes. And I just love the way that that's like a tri-color, tri-fold with those different patterns on the front. And that Fright Night die, I didn't have a chance to cut it in early espresso, so I just popped black on there. I covered most of it anyway, and it looked great. Okay, so here's our Mossy Meadow, and this is a lot of like tone on tone, but you can see there's partial stamping on the inside of the card. On this one, we have partial stamping on the outside, so I used my blends to color. I chose Cajun Craze for the pumpkins instead. You can see those little matte dots. They were so perfect for this set of cards. Now here, what I had done was, oh, sorry, we are coming up on the actual photos. So we're getting to the end of the video, but just wanted to shout out that those were the die cut acorns, and I just glued them on top of the stamped acorns. So very slight difference. Now, if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, I would love to have you subscribe. If you haven't already, if you like, comment, or share the video, it really, really helps the video to get seen. Because I've been away for a little while, my channel really is not pushing videos at all. So if you appreciate these cards or you know somebody who would, please share it. All right, I'll see you in the next one.